Nicola, his family comes from Naples. Mine comes from Sicily. But we can still talk to each other. It's okay. You know, we still can do the paisan kind of thing. Now, before I start, I have to tell you, this is like church. Do you know what it's like being a speaker and not having anybody in the front row? So I'm going to make any of you, all of you over there, because I can't make eye contact with you. You have to come on over. I'm sorry, unless you got a walker and you can't do it. Come on, there we go. Come on over. Come on. I can't see you. How am I gonna? We gotta. This guy's looking at me like, okay, you're driving me crazy already, and you haven't even started talking. This is better. This is getting better. I mean, imagine going to church and have nobody in the front row. Every week. Okay, we're doing better. There's still a seat here. Doesn't anybody want to come and sit in the front row here? I could go on strike. No. Yeah, who's going to laugh at my jokes? Who am I going to make eye contact with? All right, you're not going to get one of our prizes because you won't move. It's okay. It's all right. But okay. All right. It's really a pleasure being here tonight. I mean, if you can believe it, I met a woman named Rena who read one of my books on the Seine, and she's going to go to every single bridge in Paris to go discover it all. And then somebody who I went to high school with, Meg, there she is, Buffalo, New York, Holy Angels Academy, 1966. So this is really a wonderful occasion for me to come here. I've never been to Stanford before. It seems like you don't even have chain stores. You still have little mom and pop stores. It seems like a kind of nice place to be. And thank you to this library, who I understand you've got a great, thank you so much. I understand you've got a collection of Ukrainian books for children, for reaching out, making, my favorite word in French is partage. It's sharing. And that's what's the most important thing about a library, and a library like this that can reach out to an immigrant community is quite special. Okay, we're going to talk about the Louvre today. How many of you have been to Paris? Oh my God, that's just about everybody. How many of you have been to the Louvre? How many of you have found the Louvre a really difficult place? Great, yes, okay, well, you're my audience. Well, I have a confession to make, because the Louvre is an impossible museum. Some people complain that the Met is a difficult museum, but the Met at least was built as a museum. The Louvre was not. The Louvre was built as a fortress in the Middle Ages. And you can still, if you go now, you can still see the foundations of the Louvre. And in many respects, it is still a fortress. And then kings tried to turn it into a fancy palace, but if you look in the front, you've got the Seine River there, so it is always going to be damp and humid. I don't know if you have damp, humid basements, but if you do, you know what it's like to try to fight mold and mildew. This is a slide that's a little off kilter, and we hope that the rest of the slides are not, but if you can sort of see the line of people there outside. If you saw the whole slide, you would see that the line goes for about hundreds and hundreds of people, because this is what it's like to try to get into the Louvre. Why? Because of her. How many of you feel as if you've been trapped in that world? I mean, the nightmare for the museum nightmare for anybody who lives in Paris is when you have a house guest and the house guest says, "Oh, I'd love to go see the Mona Lisa. Can we go to the Louvre?" And you think, of all the things I do not want to do is to go see the Mona Lisa. It's an enormous place, and too many people want to go see her. The Louvre has been renovated more than 20 times. It's kind of like if you tried to put an addition onto your house or try to renovate your house, but you already have a house that's been renovated by a huge number of megalomaniac, narcissistic kings, and you can't figure out what you can possibly do to any of the rooms to sort it out. There's more than 30,000 works of art on display, and if you stood in front of every single work of art in the Louvre for 15 seconds, it would take you 145 hours. And if you went through every single one of the 400 rooms of the Louvre, it would be about 9 miles of exercise or 18,000 steps. Why is it such a mess to get in there to see her? Well, this is what I found. I found this just the other day. This is the lead of the paper, the New York Times, La Gioconda. That's how you say the Mona Lisa in Italian. When she was stolen in 1911, she was the lead of the paper, the most important story in the New York Times, because she was stolen. She was missing for 2 years, and the theft coincided with a revolution in newspapers. Newspapers suddenly were published on good quality but cheap newsprint with ink that didn't rub off. So she became the story around the world for about 2 years. She's so famous and so much of a person that people write letters not only to the museum about the Mona Lisa, but to the Mona Lisa. I'm an old investigative reporter, so I, of course, made friends with the woman who is the librarian for all of the paintings in the Louvre, and she showed me the boxes and boxes of letters that were written either about or to the Mona Lisa, including these. If you look here, there's one, it's a little hard to see, but it's from Poland, and the woman writes her letter, Ma chère Lisa, she writes it in French. Or this one here on the bottom is written by this young American who doesn't really know how to spell. I don't know if you can see that he drew a picture, Pictur, of her, Picter, of her, and because he would like to meet her one day. Now, what do we have here? You know, when I had to decide how to approach this book, I decided to approach it as a journalist. You know, I'm not an art historian, I'm not a tour guide, but I'm a lifelong journalist. So one day I sweet-talked a young historian of the Louvre into opening up the treasure trove of Mona Lisa kitsch. Evidently, there was a guy, he was an engineer, and he was obsessed with the Mona Lisa. So he spent his whole life, when he wasn't doing engineering, collecting kitsch about the Mona Lisa. So in these rooms, you will see some of the kitsch. You see there's Mona Lisa bottles, Mona Lisa coffee cups, Mona Lisa beer mugs, Mona Lisa plates, Mona Lisa playing cards. We've got some more stuff here. Mona Lisa watches, Mona Lisa busts in the shape of Della Robbia. Since we're a PG-13 crowd, I didn't bring a picture of the Mona Lisa one size for all condoms. But you can still buy them on the Rue de Rivoli for any of you who, in these little shops along across the street from the Louvre, and for any of you. Can I just tell a terrible joke? This is really a terrible joke. I spoke to an elderly crowd the other night, and I have a little contest, and I have like these little prizes, this frame-ready illustrated map of the Louvre. And I said, gosh, maybe I should have brought a few of the Mona Lisa condoms as little presents. And this guy said to me, he said, I think it would be wasted on this crowd. So anyway, let's see what else we got here. Okay, so who else did I make friends with? I made friends with all the people I could in the Louvre, including the window washers of the pyramid, because one of the questions I wanted answered was, how in the world do you wash the pyramid? You know, some of you may have difficulties with washing your windows and getting all the, you know, the bird dew off and the sand when it gets too hot, blah, blah. So I went up one day with the window washers, who you can see have to climb up the side of the pyramid in order to clean it. I also made friends with, isn't he the handsomest guy in all of Paris? The Louvre is protected by the sapeur-pompier firefighting force. This is the same firefighting force that saved Notre Dame. Remember when we all heard about Notre Dame getting on fire and the firefighters had to go into the building? It's his force. And they belong to the French military. They don't belong to the city of Paris. So these are all soldiers. And Capitaine Eke, who happens to be the sexiest man in all of Paris, especially when he's got all his medals on, took me up to the top of the Louvre and down into the basement to see the Louvre in a different way. And look at, I mean, wouldn't you, isn't this worth it? It was worth climbing up. I had to climb up the side of the building, you know, this ladder that was on the sort of on the side of the building. But I did it, you know, all for the sake of art. Okay, now, what I also learned from the night guards is there are ghosts in the Louvre. And really and truly, they will tell you stories about hearing weird sounds in the middle of the night and doors that shut when they shouldn't shut, and steps, you know, people hearing steps on the ground. And these stories are passed on generation to generation. This was a series, a TV series that was done in the 1960s that terrified all of France. I mean, little kids didn't want to go to school anymore. They had psychologists writing in the newspapers saying this is what you should do to get over your fear of Belphegor, who was the ghost of the Louvre. And if any of you read French, or actually, you don't even have to read French, but you can ask the library. The book's been translated. It's a bad translation of a bad French novel, but still, it would be good for your French. And I think this library should have a copy of Belphegor. Okay, gardeners. The thing about the Louvre is that next to the Louvre is the Tuileries Gardens. And a lot of people don't know, but the Tuileries belongs to the Louvre. And the Tuileries is like an outdoor museum. And you can discover extraordinary sculptures. And also every year, the gardeners in the Tuileries match up their flowers with certain works of art in the museum. So again, there's that partage, there's a sharing between actually what they decide to grow and how they're inspired by certain works of art. Here's another scene of the Tuileries garden. And this is not a tree. This is a sculpture. In the middle of the Tuileries garden, it's a sort of off the beaten track. This is a hard one, and I don't know if any of you will get it, but does anybody know who sculpted this bronze here? Louise Bourgeois is close, but it's no cigar. But you know what? Since you said it with such force, I'm going to give you a prize anyway, which is, yeah. That was a pretty good guess, Louise Bourgeois, because Louise Bourgeois does have some works in the Tuileries. No, this is in honor. Anthony, where are you, Anthony? Where's Anthony? Anthony Pennone, you know, the Italian, Arte Povera. We got an Italian in the Tuileries Gardens, the Pennone tree. So, anybody know who painted her? Who said Rembrandt? No, you can't win twice. No, you can't. You already won once, unless you have a friend. Do you have a? Okay. Did you hear that? Did everybody hear that? His wife. You're not. Who invited him? I mean, really, Julie. No. Yes, it is Rembrandt. But did anybody else guess Rembrandt? He got it. You did. You did. Oh, the both of you did. You both did? You both said Rembrandt? I have to give two of these away? All right, here you go. Come on and get it. She's a wonderful artist, by the way. Her name is Carol Gilles. But wait, did she win it too? Did she say it too? Did you? Yeah, okay. You said it together. And you're in the front row. Yeah, okay. Maybe I should give everybody in the front row a prize. Okay. Let me just tell you about this painting for a second. I spent a lot of time with a guy named Sebastian Allard, who is the director of paintings. He's the chief curator, and he hates the Mona Lisa. I mean, he doesn't really hate her. He just tolerates her because he has to answer questions about her all the time. So I said to him one day, Sebastian, are there other works of art? Can you name 5 other paintings that you think are better than the Mona Lisa? And he said yes. And that ended up being a chapter in my book because I thought that would be fun because we always think of the Mona Lisa and the Louvre. So I asked him, let's talk about other ones. This is Rembrandt's painting of Bathsheba, who has just received the letter from King David, who wants her to come to his lair so she can be with him, and she has to decide, does she obey her king, or does she and does she disobey and betray her husband, who happens to be one of King David's soldiers? Now the next one, ready for the next one? No, not Olympia. No, no, no. We're in the wrong museum. Olympia's in the Orsay. No. It's the cover of my book. We tattooed her back. Okay, the time's up. We got too much time. Ingres. This is Ingres, Ingres, and she's got too many ribs down her back, but she was perfect to write the tattoo on of the title of the book. This was my choice. This was not one of Sebastian's choices, but this was one of his choices. Who said Vermeer? You said Vermeer first. Okay, you said Vermeer, but they get one because they moved and you didn't. But you get one anyway. But you're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come all the way up here to get it. There you go. Thank you. You're sitting in the front row, but I can't make eye contact. And wait, do we have 1 or 2 winners here? Oh, we have another winner in the back there. Okay, there we go. Could you kindly either come up or here we go. Aren't these cute? Aren't they nice? Yeah, okay. You know, my father, I was telling Anthony before, my father had a little Italian food store in Niagara Falls. And we had to learn how to sell a 1/4 pound of salami at a time, but we always gave a little present, you know, like a little bocce or something. So that's what this is. You can buy my book too if you want, you know. Okay, Vermeer. Now, no. He's in the same room as the Mona Lisa. So she's a Florentine, he's from Venice. Who said Tiziano? You got it. Titian. Here we go. That was good. That was very good. How did you get Titian? That's a hard one. Okay, so this is Titian's Man with a Glove. Nobody ever pays any attention to him. Although, if you look at Mona Lisa, she's really kind of looking right at him. He's sort of in this corridor, and you have to pass by him to get from the Mona Lisa room to the next room. So people just pass him by. But he is so beautiful that Dame Judi Dench, the British actress, once when she gave an interview to the BBC, said that if she were stranded on a desert island, she would want to be stranded with him because he was just so nice to have around. But I'm a former war correspondent, and I'm thinking if I've got to deal with snakes and pirates, somebody who wears a lace collar and lace cuffs is not the kind of guy who I want to protect me. This is who I want with me. Il Condottieri. Anybody know who painted him? No. Condottieri, Italian. No. Who got that? Oh my gosh, you got it. Do you know, I have to tell you, A Sicilian, that's right, Antonella da Messina. Do you know, I have been doing a book tour for the last 6 weeks, and no one has gotten Antonella da Messina. Give this guy a hand. Did you hear this? Yes, and where is it? Is it in Cefalù or is it in Palermo? Yeah, it's in Sicily. Yeah, if you go to Sicily, you got to go see Antonello. So this is what I wrote about him in my book. His eyes stare through you with the hard look of the Sicilian South that some of my ancestors had. You want to touch the scar above his upper lip and ask him to tell the story behind it. Few visitors stop to look at him, so often we're alone. Sebastian Allar once said that this painting suggests that Antonella da Messina was as talented as Leonardo da Vinci. So I call my Sicilian condottieri the undiscovered Mona Lisa. Okay, so let's change registers and go to something else. We're finished for the moment with our contest, okay? Because everybody's going to know this. This is the Winged Victory of Samothrace. And if you look carefully at the picture on the left, the wing on the left is slightly different from the wing on the right. That little feather sticks out more. And that's because when they restored her in 2013, Ludovic Logier, who was in charge of the restoration, found all these little bits and pieces of the statue in storage drawers in the Louvre, including a feather. And he discovered that the feather fit perfectly up on the wing. So I like to call that feather the Logier feather. Now here we've got Venus de Milo. Everybody looks at her from the front. You've got crowds and crowds of people looking at her from the front, but I think she's much more seductive looking at her from behind. And from behind we see that the style of wearing one's garment low below at the bottom of the buttocks is not anything new, but has been around since ancient times. People have to bring their kids to the Louvre, and everybody says to me, what do I do with my kids to the Louvre? So I say to them, bribe them. You know, give them, I don't know what's the appropriate amount of money to give kids these days. I would say $1, but now it's up to maybe $5. For every dog or every cat you can find in the Louvre, you get paid. Or if you've got like a really difficult teenage daughter and she doesn't want to go with you to the Louvre, you offer her a lot of money to find very beautiful shoes in the Louvre. Now you're a foodie or you're hungry, so you can find food in the Louvre. Now anybody know who painted this? Chardin. So what I did with this painting is called La Brioche, the brioche. And it's a wedding painting, and it's very, you know, art historians will tell you it's very phallic because you've got the phallus over the bottle on the right and the little pretty pot that's about to be opened on the left. But I was focusing on the brioche. So what I decided to do for fun is I invited a very famous chef, Guy Savoy, to meet Sebastian Allar, the head of paintings, to talk about this painting, because Guy Savoy runs this very, very fancy restaurant in Paris. Have anybody ever eaten a Guy Savoy restaurant? Guy Savoy? Okay. It's one of those life experiences that that if you ever go to Paris, you should do like once and save up all your money, go once in your life. His signature dish is an artichoke truffle soup with Parmesan shavings served with a savory brioche. It took him 2 years to perfect this brioche. So I thought, we'll bring Sebastian together with Guy, and they'll discuss the brioche. Now, Chardin is like the perfectionist of still life. Everything has to be in perfect order, perfectly appointed, nothing out of its place. And Guy Savoy took one look at this and said, the brioche is burnt. And poor Sebastian Allard, it was like a dagger to his heart that, you know, his Prince of Order was suddenly exposed as someone who made mistakes. But it started a whole conversation between the two of them, which is the most important thing you can do with art, because, you know, it's like that line in Ratatouille where they said, you know, anybody can cook or everybody can cook. Everybody can go to a museum and interpret art in a different way. You don't have to be an art historian to appreciate art. And that's what this painting means to me. So you're a history buff. Anybody know who painted him? Her? It's a her. We're after the Medusa. Géricault. But this painting doesn't belong to the Louvre. This is one of 1,600 orphans at the Louvre, because the Louvre is the custodian of works of art that were seized from families, mostly Jewish families, during the German occupation of Paris, taken away and then returned. And it's in the Louvre, but it doesn't belong to the Louvre. And sprinkled through the Louvre are various works of art like this. There are 2 rooms, small rooms dedicated to these orphans, but you really have to look hard to find them. And other orphans are spread at other museums around France or are in storage. And, you know, I think it would be a great project for the Louvre to pull them all together and show them as one work of art. You know, I decided to study all sorts of different subjects. Like I wanted to discover women in the Louvre. And you'll see that there are very few women artists in the Louvre. And Laurence Descartes, who took over as the first woman director of the Louvre, said early in her tenure that there are only 25 women out of some 3,600 painters. And she said, how can museums claim universalism when entire sections of society are not represented? And you are assaulted by works that show women as victims. And here is a painting that's called The Bolt. Anybody know who painted? It is Fragonard. Who said it's not Fragonard? Okay, you win. It's not Fragonard. Be confident in your guesses. Fragonard. Now, you look at this painting. This painting was put on the cover of a book that the Louvre published called Love in the Louvre. Now, you can interpret it your own way, whether you think that's love or something else, but I leave it to you, the audience, to decide. If you look hard enough, though, you will find power women in the Louvre, and I found mine in Mesopotamia. The thing about the Louvre that's so wonderful is you wander around and you find yourself in all these weird nooks and crannies and periods of history that you didn't know exist. So she's my model of the power woman of the Louvre. She's got ruby eyes and a ruby belly button, and she is Ishtar, who's the goddess of both sexual love and fertility, but also the goddess of war. She prefigured the Amazons, and here we've got sex, power, identity, all in one statuette. And she's only 9 inches tall. If I had to steal one work of art from the Louvre and put it in my pocket and take it off to the desert island to protect me against the pirates and the snakes, it would be her. So you can look at the Louvre through all sorts of other subjects, like through the prism of skin color. You know, look at the Louvre in a completely different way and just say, I'm going to look at faces of different colors. Or we can think of gender fluidity as something very modern, but this is an ancient Babylonian statuette of a hermaphrodite. And this was a show that the Louvre did, a drag show that it did in the Cour Carrée, which is where the kings used to hang out. And I think they all are turning over in their grave, but it was a great show. When people say, where do I like to go at the Louvre? I like to go and look at the ancient Persia collection, because the Louvre is a place where you can travel to places that are closed to visitors right now, like Iran. And I've spent a lot of time in Iran, and I used to take the New York Times, where I worked for 30 some years, would take tours of Americans to Iran, and I would go on these tours. And when we would go, the tour guides would say, if you really want to discover what ancient Persia looks like, when we would go to Persepolis, you can come to Persepolis, but you also have to go to the Louvre. And these colored friezes are so powerful that they actually sell postcards of the Louvre friezes at the gift shop in Persepolis. So people ask me, excuse me, what advice I have. I have one unbreakable rule for visitors, which is never go to the Louvre on an empty stomach and with a full bladder, because you will not find a good restaurant in the Louvre, and you will look for at least 15 minutes for a toilet. So I even have in my book, in the appendix, like a little how-to, like where to go to my favorite little cafe, which has a good, in the basement, it's a great toilet, so that you can get your croque monsieur with a glass of champagne, and no one will look at you funny, and use the toilet and be all set to go in because the Louvre is a battleground. So before I end, I just want to show you a couple of my favorite slides. Everybody knows who that is. Who knows what designer she's wearing? Givenchy. Somebody said Givenchy early. Okay, how many, do I have one or more than one back there? Who's the Givenchy lady or ladies? We got two? We got one? Okay. Come and get the Givenchy. This is Audrey wearing Givenchy. For those of you who don't know the movie Funny Face, it's a great film. She's running down the Daru staircase to meet Fred Astaire, the photographer, who's much too old for her, but that's for another day. And then there I am doing my Audrey Hepburn imitation at the Daru staircase. I started this lectures by saying that I came into the Louvre as a journalist, not an art historian or as a tour guide. And I ended my book this way. And if you would let me just read the way I ended the book. And you'll appreciate this, Meg, because it's a buffalo kind of angle. As a journalist, I have learned how to talk to anyone about anything, from farmers and factory workers to presidents and kings. As a visitor to the Louvre, I also had to communicate with works of art. That meant seeing, really seeing. I learned this habit from my mother, and this is why I've dedicated this book to her memory. She was a stay-at-home mom who took me and my siblings to our art museum in Buffalo and taught us to sit and see the paintings around us. Later in life, she painted, not brilliantly, but good enough. At a eulogy at her funeral, my younger daughter, Gabriella, told a story. She said, "One time when we were painting together, Grandma told me there was blue in the bushes. I had no idea what she was talking about. But then I learned that there is more to art than what you see at first glance. And to capture an image, you must look at it hard and interpret it in various ways. This is how Grandma treated life." And as we observe and navigate our turbulent world, I urge you to stop and see and find blue in the bushes. Thank you very much. So I think we have time for a few questions. but maybe we should turn the light on so I can see who's fallen asleep while I was talking. No, Anthony, where are you, Anthony? Oh, Anthony went out to turn the lights on. Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, now this is much better. Now I get to see all of you. So, anybody have a question? Yes, Meg. Did everybody hear? Did everybody hear what Meg said? That Canova's the Canova sculpture that's very famous is her favorite, and you will go to see that. Yeah, the three grace. Well, there's a number of three graces in the world, but there are the three graces in the Louvre too. Yes, yeah. So you're, I identify different types of visitors in the Louvre. So you're a pilgrim because you go with something in mind, and you go to find it, you go to discover it, and then you wander. Yes. How many miles have I have walked? I have no idea. Yeah, I've seen everything. I have been through purgatory in the Louvre. It's, who was it's not as bad as Jesus but the Louvre, when I started the book, the Louvre assigned me a minder, a chaperone, and I couldn't do any interview with any person who worked at the Louvre except in the presence of this one designated person who had to set up all the interviews, which made my life miserable because reporters like to have free reign, and this person was not going to let me have free reign. So it probably set me back about a year. So more than how many miles did I walk? It's how long did I suffer? Yeah. Doing penance along the way. Yes. Well, when that's interesting. This is a question about the pyramid and what people think about the pyramid. There was a big controversy when it was built. It was the same thing that happened with the Eiffel Tower when it was built. Yeah, that everybody thought it was a disgrace and should be torn down. On the whole, people thought that the pyramid was a great success at the time because it was transparent, and it was done in crystalline, pure glass that took Saint-Gobain, the glassmakers, 2 years to make, so that it really does shine brilliantly, and you really feel that there's something magical about this object in the middle of this Louvre courtyard. The problem with the pyramid now is that it is outdated. It was built to accommodate 4 million visitors a year, and now there are about 9 million visitors a year. And it, as the main entrance, it's just old. The escalators all had to be replaced. It leaks. I mean, I once actually saw a bucket there because something was leaking from the top. It's because of global warming. It's hot, so that if you have to work underneath it's impossible to air condition properly, and it's got a white floor, so the sun comes in and beats down, and it's like a greenhouse effect. And that's why the plan is to build a new entrance, put the Mona Lisa in her own room, and with a separate exhibition spaces, but that won't be done for years. Yes. It goes down a couple of more levels from the ground level, and that's what you saw there. And I actually went down like 2 more levels down. I don't know exactly how many feet, but it's one of the challenges that they will have when they build this new entrance, because the problem with the Louvre, it's unlike Notre Dame. The problem with Notre Dame was fire, because so much of the roof was done in wood. The problem with the Louvre is water, and it's still in a flood zone, and it's very easy for the water to come from underneath and inundate the floors. Yeah. Yes. You and millions of other people have been disappointed. Well, I actually wrote a story for the Wall Street Journal about how I came to appreciate the Mona Lisa. I mean, I will never be in love with her because she drives me crazy. But even in Leonardo's day, this painting was recognized as something extraordinary because of and again, I'm not an art historian, but because of the techniques that Leonardo mastered in terms of layering, and there's actually the Mona Lisa effect. I mean, you can actually look at her, and when you move, her eyes, they call it the Mona Lisa eyes, they move with you. And if you look up and you look at the smile seems to move, so that you can study her if you're alone with her and see this. What's the problem is that she's very small. She's only 20 by 30 inches. And we all think of her as like, we all expect this big painting. And she hasn't been restored so that she's yellow. In fact, some of the people who write letters to her say, we think you're suffering from jaundice, not extra, layers of whatever, dirt and all the rest. But it's really hard to see her, and it's hard to appreciate her. And she's behind this bulletproof glass. So, but she's. It all started, the big mania started in 1911 when she became famous around the world, and it's never stopped. And even when she came to the United States during the 60s, there were lines around the corner at the Metropolitan Museum. You saw her there too. You have to be alone with her. You have to bond with her. Well, you never know. On ne sait jamais. You never know in life when you might be alone with the Mona Lisa. Yes, sir. You get to ask a question even though you wouldn't move to this seat right here, but you laughed at my joke, so that's fine. It's good. It was an Italian who was a glazier who worked at times for the Louvre. And he went into the Louvre a day that the museum was closed, and literally took her off the wall, took her out of the frame, carried her under his smock, and brought her back to his little room, stuck her under the bed, and brought her back to Italy, and then tried to sell her a couple of years later, and he was caught then. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. PBS made a wonderful program about the Mona Lisa and the theft, or yeah. PBS knows more about it than I do. Yeah. Peruzia, is it Peruzia? His name was, yeah. Yes, sir. Do I think the Mona Lisa should be restored the way you want to start another revolution in France? Notre Dame succeeded despite the odds. I mean, no one thought that. Has anyone been to Notre Dame since it was restored? Yeah, it's really spectacular. And if you go to Paris, You can go, just go really early in the morning, and you can go even without tickets. If you arrive at 7:30, you can get in and not even wait and then go to mass. No one believed that that Notre Dame was going to be redone in 4 years, and it was redone, and it was redone well, which is really extraordinary. I think the difficulty with restoring the Mona Lisa is that it would be such a huge project and job and challenge that no one would dare to do it. You know, they've done it. They did it with the Leonardo Santa Anne, which is also in the Louvre. You know, there are other Leonardos in the Louvre, and there was such a furor and a scandal about whether it was done right that I think that would happen. So what they do is once a year they take her out of the frame. They make sure that there's not been any more damage. She's not on a canvas. She's on a poplar, you know, she's on wood. And so it has to be examined once a year and make sure there's no damage to the wood or to the frame, or there's no cracks. But I think that's about all that the Louvre would dare to do. Do I think she should be? We could play with that idea, couldn't we? And imagine what it would be. Do an artificial intelligence version of the Mona Lisa restored. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Well, I don't know what the best month is, but I can tell you what the best days are not to go to the Louvre. Do not go to the Louvre on a Monday, because that's the day that the Musée d'Orsay is closed, so everybody comes to the Louvre. Do not go on a Tuesday, because the Louvre is closed on Tuesday. And I have a whole chapter about what to do when you arrive at the Louvre and you discover that it's closed and you've come all this way and you got your kids with you and you're dying and you've been waiting out in line. I have a whole thing about what to do instead in the neighborhood. Do not go on a Wednesday afternoon, because school children are out of school. So you should go Wednesday night or Friday night. But the larger question is when not to come to Paris. And you don't come to Paris when every other tourist in the world is coming to Paris. You know, winter in Paris is the best time to come and avoid. And you can pretend you're Parisian. You know, you can not smile at the street, on anybody, strangers on the street, and, you know, complain about everything, and yeah, wear the scarf, you know, the way they tie the scarf. Yeah. Yes. 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 Has the Louvre been asked to return things? Yes. Well, the Louvre, I mean, famously had to return much of what Napoleon stole when he looted. I mean, those of you who know French history know that when Napoleon went out and conquered Europe, he came with all these art historians behind him who would go and pick the best works of art in all the different churches and museums, and he'd bring them all back to Paris, because all good art had to be in Paris. Yeah, there are still cases pending about certain objects that should go back. But France has done pretty well, especially under this presidency, because he has taken a very forward-leaning approach to art that belongs elsewhere. And especially the K. Brownlee Museum, which has Asian, African, oceanic art, has had to confront works of art that had to go back. I think that, anybody else? Well, then I think we're done for now, and thank you very much for being such a great audience.